That is Laura, and this is Kyle, and it's another episode of He Said, She Said. Laura, it is the first episode of 2015. I will not wish you Happy New Year because that's officially over. So how is it going?
So far, so good. Big year of change. I think for both of us, where we and I think maybe as we get into 2015, we can talk about some of the big changes that are coming up for both of us.
Absolutely. So you have a very passionate topic that you want to talk about today, and as we get ready for the Super Bowl next week, you want to talk a little bit about what's being known as DeflateGate. Now, for pure transparency, I am not a football fan anymore. I used to be a big one. I lost the bug several years ago, so I don't know much more about DeflateGate than what the average 13-year-old girl would know. So I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I got to buck up my ass about this particular situation because it's at the core of so much of what's happened in our world and our economy of late, and that's why it's a problem. So for those like you who have a 13-year-old girl kind of knowledge about this, basically the Patriots have been accused of cheating because I didn't really know this, but both teams in a game come with their own footballs, and they are inspected, and the Patriots footballs, 11 of 12 of their footballs have been identified as having been deflated, which when you're playing in a game in the Northeast and it's freezing cold and the balls get really hard and catch them. Bottom line, when they're deflated a little bit, it makes it easier to throw and to catch them and gives an advantage to the team. So the issue for me is cheating. I mean, it's no different than anything else. The problem with it is, often in the morning, you'll see on the news that a 5-year-old was expelled from school because of a zero tolerance policy that he completely unknowingly violated. So we hold our tiny tots accountable with absolutely no exceptions, and we're prepared to honor a zero tolerance policy, and yet grown men who want to win are now being slapped a fine, which is only a mere tiny percentage of the incredible salaries that they all make. The team is being fined, and they're still going to go to the Super Bowl, and they cheated. And I have two athletes, and I can promise you that if at a junior high or high school or youth level this would happen, oh my God, the team would be disqualified. The kids would be kicked off the team. I mean, you can't even imagine the wrath of zero tolerance that would come down on them. And I just want to say the NFL needs to grow a set of balls. I mean, seriously, I don't understand. And I think for me and for everyone else out there, it makes our job as leaders, parents, when we're trying to honor honesty and integrity in our relationships, it really makes our job harder. We're being asked to do really difficult to hold the line in our lives, and as parents, we can't expect the same. It pisses me off.
Among the many reasons why I don't watch professional sports, you just mentioned one, and that's obviously money. Listen, Laura, we and all of us, okay, you, myself, we've all done this. We will trade in our pride and integrity on the slightest shiny object. We will, okay? Money being probably one of the brightest of all of them, okay? All of us at some point or another have traded in our integrity for some short-term gain, whatever that may be, okay? And as I think about this from the context of myself, and I think about it as from the context of my kids, listen, yes, it makes our job as parents difficult, right? Because we have to speak to it. Our kids may ask about it. Certainly these athletes, for better or worse, can have influence over our children, right? And potentially represent for them the way that things maybe should be. But I got to tell you though, I mean, if a parent is doing their job right and they're intentional about what they're doing, they're not throwing, their children's upbringing to, Facebook and whatever's happening in Hollywood. For me personally, this is a non-starter. Yes, there's a double standard. You mentioned it, correct? We expect, our children, little league sports and so forth to abide by certain standards. The backside of that is, and let's just call it how it is, right? There are hundreds of millions of dollars riding on this game next week. They're not going to go back and change that now. The investment has already been made. The money is on the table, and we're moving forward.
I work with individuals all day who are trying to find the balls, trying to find the courage, and trying to find a way of speaking up about hard truths and doing things, making hard decisions that don't feel comfortable and that really are going to shake up their lives.
Sure.
Right? Listen, we're living out the economy no differently of men and women. Let me not put it on the men in the financial world who we're just as big of cheaters, and we're all gonna live out their bright shiny object syndrome, on steroids. We're gonna live out the fallout of that. I have problem with all of it, and I know that is my one voice and our one conversation here going to change up the game? No. But there will be eventually there'll be some form of a price to pay for one more DeflateGate, one more, immoral, unethical, greedy, self-serving, money grubbing, whatever you want to call it, DeflateGate kind of a situation. This time it may be sports. The past few years, it's been, around the financial industry, and all of us are suffering because of it. It slowly eats away at who we are as people, who we are as community.
I wrote an article sometime back where I called it, morality by degrees. All right, we are all. I'll use the biblical sinners, all right? We make mistakes. We are all immoral by varying degrees. It's very easy for any of us to look at some other immoral act, DeflateGate, marital infidelity, some sort of challenge or issue with children, and point the finger, failing to remember, right, our own immorality, though it just may be not quite as culturally unacceptable, okay? So we have to be very careful of that part. I think that's the very first thing to recognize, all right? I also wrote an article sometime back, and this is one of the concerns that I have, and I'm having a conversation that I'm going to post next month on Fatherhood Wide Open with an industry insider around celebrity worship, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, this is really where I think you're getting to, okay? And this is particularly so for boys, and even so for girls, especially when you're talking about actresses and entertainers, okay? One of the things that I want to impress about both of my children, because my son is a sports fan, he likes several athletes. It's very important for us to teach our children to recognize and be able to admire an athlete for their on-field abilities, whether that be throwing a football, catching, slam dunking, hitting a baseball, whatever that may be. But then at the same time, recognizing that what they see is such a small part of who that individual truly is, that while you may want to emulate their style of play, and you may want to emulate the way that they handle themselves on a sports field, you don't know anything about that individual, all right? You may think that, an athlete is just awesome, I want to be just like him. if you were to pull back the layers of that individual, you may recognize that what you see on camera is not what he or she is off of camera. And it's important for us as parents to show our children those situations. And I think DeflateGate represents that very well, right? Whether or not players on the team had anything directly to do with that or not, they are in the middle of this storm right now. And while the quarterback may be very good at his job, that only represents a small part of who that person really is. So I think it's important for us as parents to teach our children to distinguish between an athlete and admiring him for their skills and not wanting to be just like him and thinking that his entire or her entire life represents what they see during those 3 hours of game.
For once, wouldn't it be nice to see someone that wasn't faced with a legal issue where the courts after 2 years came down and forced you to be courageous and ethical? Wouldn't it be nice if someone just was a role model for our kids, for ourselves, for the community, and just said, this is the hard thing to do. You people are not going to like this, but it's got to be done because I know.
I rolled my eyes for this reason, right? Okay. You're talking about the hero. All right. We have completely remodeled what the hero is today. All right. The hero today is someone with 4 million followers on Twitter. The hero today is someone who gets retweeted or he gets liked or he gets Facebook, comments or, he's on the front page of some sort of internet or magazine or newspaper. Okay. Here's the deal. Conviction. Because the type of hero you're talking about is someone with conviction, someone with moral standards, someone who is willing to sacrifice those shiny objects for the greater good. Laura, those people don't get retweeted on Twitter, okay? Those people don't get likes on Facebook, okay? Those people are not trending in social media. So no, those individuals, they're out there. We've pushed them to the side. Those are the types of people that are going to live their lives. They're not going to be in the spotlight. They don't want to be in the spotlight. So those heroes, for all intents and purposes, Laura, yes, they're gone. And they're not coming back. And the reason why they're not coming back is we as a culture don't want them. Because when you have someone who lives by their convictions, who does the things that you want to do, who makes the tough decisions, it makes all of us look in the mirror at ourselves and realize where we're falling short. And no one likes that.
You just said it, and it makes me sad. I think it's just, this for me is a sad moment because it feels like watching the heroes die. It does. It feels like that. And to be honest, from a feminine perspective, it's really not sexy at all. And I mean that. It's like, I talk a lot about relationships with people and the things, it's not sexy. Tom Brady's not sexy. This is not sexy. None of it is sexy at all in any way. It's a turn on.
But here's the deal. When did character, when did integrity, when did conviction, when was the last time any of those three characteristics were sexy in the eyes of most women? Because here's the deal, all right? I've read about this before, okay? A man of conviction, a man of character is going to piss people off. They're going to make decisions that other people are not going to like, and those other people are going to rail on him. And the same thing applies for women, okay? A woman of conviction, a woman of character, you know what she gets called? A bitch.
I get it, but this definitely, it's been a bug up my ass this week, and there's sometimes I can't explain why sometimes something really pushes my buttons, but this in particular definitely has pushed my buttons.
What's your final thoughts, Laura, on this?
My final thought is that I would love to see some real heroes. That this, I'm going to have to think about what you just said because I think that it's true. And I for one, will stand here today and say that I do want to see the heroes. I do want to see that. It is sexy and attractive to me. It does. It may make me look in the mirror and at myself in a new way, but in doing so, it raises my standards. And I want my standards to be raised in any way in any way possible.
It's a very good way of putting raising your standard. A hero, to your point, should raise our standards. We should be able to look at that person, man or woman, and say to ourselves, I want to be like that person, and make sure that those reasons are the right reasons, not because they can throw a football, not because they can hit a golf ball. One of the reasons why I created the podcast Fatherhood Wide Open is because I wanted to capture the wisdom and the insight from men who don't throw footballs, who don't hit golf balls. Just because Tiger Woods can hit a golf ball 300 yards, that doesn't prove that he can tell me how to be a man, okay, or be a father. All right. But yet we live in this culture where we assume that, back to what I said earlier, because they can do something well in this area, well, my gosh, they must be able to do everything great. And that's one of our failures. But that goes back to the celebrity worship that you talked about.
Exactly.
Until next time, Laura. Good talking.